I'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people. Moving to adoption of the agenda, I'd like first to add item 11B under correspondence, request for letter of support, Literacy Now Cowichan. Agenda moved for acceptance, moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee Dolman. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to minutes of the February 2nd open board meeting. So moved. Moved by Trustee Schmidt, seconded by Trustee Groot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to recognition and delegations. And our delegation this evening is Alison People and Diana Well regarding gas class. So, really happy to see you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Dual screens.
I'm sure you know you have 10 minutes.
We won't need 10 minutes, but we can easily fill it if you like.
Oh, no, just, just present and then we'll ask you questions. Great.
Okay. So I'm Alison Keppel, Diana Weld, and we've got gas. Okay. Okay. That joke usually goes nowhere, and we said this is the last time we're going to use it if people don't laugh, but thank you, Charlie. So GAS stands for Geography 12, Adventure Tourism 11, and Social Justice 12. We call it GAS class. So how did this class come to be? Well, about 5 years ago, I guess, Diana and I taught sort of those courses separately, and we started noticing fewer kids choosing those courses because we have a lot of different options for kids. So we were sort of faced with declining enrollment. We talk a lot collegially about our practice, and Diana had sort of come up with this project. She showed me for social justice, and she felt like it would fit with adventure tourism that I was teaching at the time, and we realized there were geography components as well. So we started to get really excited about this idea of teaching things together rather than siloed, this whole idea of cross-curricular connections. So we went to Charlie, we said the magic word pilot project, and decided that we would run this class together about 4 years ago as a prototype, and here we are today.
So we were given one block. Initially it was first semester, or no, initially it was second semester. Two of us teaching it, so two teachers, the three subjects together, 60 students, and we created 16 what we call GAS weeklies. I've got some samples to pass around. So this was really to help the students on a weekly basis choose where they were going to focus their efforts, whether it was going to be in geography, adventure tourism, or social justice, so that they knew what was happening every day in the class, and so we would know where they would be every day. So they had lots of different options.
Sometimes students chose sort of to visit 2 or more places, so they really had to start managing their time and making some choices about where they're going to be and what they're going to do. And then at the end of the week, you can see on the back of the GAS week, we have the What I Learned Lately section, and they have to reflect on their 21st century skills, so critical thinking, communication, creativity, and collaboration, and give us examples of how they've used those skills over the past week in class. And we want to update that now to sort of go with the core competencies, but that wasn't out yet when we started this. And there was really a whole process in getting kids to reflect on 21st century skills, and it was actually really difficult at first, and we had to go through a bunch of lessons to help kids actually first define what those things are, and then really refine their understanding and their ability to do this reflective piece. But by the end of the semester, we got really good reflections from kids, but that's really a good example of a growth process that kids go through, because they're not used to talking about, oh, I collaborated in this way with kids. The first thing they say is, well, when we say, give me an example of communication, they say, well, I talked to my group members. That's sort of the beginning of the semester. Then by the end of the semester, they're progressing on specifically what their role was in a particular project on that particular day.
And we, the first year, we had 4 cross-curricular projects we've added to that repertoire. So the one that initially brought us together was the Animal Ambassadors Project. And then we created a Global Explorations Travel Guide project. and in the news, and a community plan, which was based on planning where they would like to see the community that they live in go to. So all of that led to countless hours of collaboration between both Allison and I and the students, and it's priceless.
So what we've learned over the past 4 years of combining these 3 courses and teaching multiple kids at the same time, and sometimes in multiple locations, is that there's good, there's bad, and then there's sort of good and bad together. So there's, just to sort of highlight some of the pros, the connections that kids are making between materials is really exciting. Because of course, as you know, the way traditionally school is delivered is subjects are in silos, and you switch from doing your social studies to doing your math, and never shall the two converse with each other. And so we really like the opportunity to get kids to look at being able to learn several different topics sort of at once. Kids are working together. It's a mixed grade class of grade 11 and 12 students, and so they're sharing a lot of their learning at different grade level. Kids have the opportunity to earn multiple credits. So some kids, say, are just doing Geography 12, and they work on mainly just Geography 12 over the semester, and they finish with those 4 credits. But we have other kids that are really interested in several topics, and so I'd say about a third of our students end up getting 8 credits, so they might get credit for 2 courses, and some of them might get partial credit in other of the different areas as well. So kids have lots of flexibility and choice as far as the credits that they're earning, and we sit down and we have a sort of declare your major day where they tell us 3/4 of the way through the semester what it actually is that they're learning and what they're working on. So they have lots of time. Some of the cons is it's messy. We have kids sort of everywhere, all throughout the building.
Gas weeklies.
Yeah, sometimes with us, sometimes we're in the same room, sometimes Diana and I are in separate rooms, sometimes we have kids working independently in the library. So if you come into any one of our classrooms during gas class, it doesn't necessarily look like much is going on in certain cases. Another sort of con is we do it through project-based learning, and this, for most kids, is the first time that they've been exposed to that methodology. So there is a learning curve for the kids as well. And even just small things like record keeping, for example, attendance, which is just a really small little structure, but it's something that Diana and I spend a ton of time on because our system is set up to record kids who are absent. But if kids are working with me, some kids are working with Diana, I don't necessarily know who's absent because I only know who's present. If some kids are working in the library or somewhere else, again, we don't really have a way to mark kids present rather than absent. So we spend a lot of time texting each other all day. Did you see so-and-so? Did you see so-and-so? Did you cruise to the library? So even just small structures like that tend to take up a lot of our time, and that's got nothing to do with the learning aspect of the course.
Yeah. Some of the things that continue to be both pros and cons are the collaboration for both the students and us and I. Just getting students together to work on those projects is new to them in that way. So that can be a pro and a con. So they're still learning that. This idea of letting go, that was really for us because we were used to teaching academic courses and really focusing on those learning outcomes, and now we're really looking at the big ideas and not all the little details. So we had to let a lot go. Assessment and evaluation and the reporting is ongoing. We're getting better at that, but it's still a bit of a con because it takes a lot of time. But it's pro because there's 2 of us marking the kids and collaborating together. So we're always collaborating with the kids and talking to each other about where the kids are in their learning.
Yeah, to come up with a mark for a student, Diana and I have a conversation with each other, and we also have a conversation with the kids. So it actually takes way more time than just a teacher sitting in isolation, plugging numbers into a spreadsheet and going, oh, it's 73%. Yeah. So some of the things that kids have said about gas class. So they really like the idea of working in different forms rather than concentrating on writing tests and quizzes. They get to look at things differently, and they get to do projects that are more big picture, different angles and perspectives. And again, this whole idea of collaboration and creativity, and we're hoping that those will lead to some very useful things when they leave school.
They definitely like the idea of taking more courses in one block and the possibility of getting more credits if they do the work for those other courses.
This is a good one, because what's not working is I keep getting behind without realizing it. Because some kids are used to sort of having a list of tasks posted on the wall, and if they haven't done it, there's an M or an I or a blank next to that. And we don't do that because it's project-based, it's more holistic, so sometimes things can sneak up on kids. But they do get lots of time to work on projects, so that's good.
They like the weekly schedule. They like getting to plan their week. At the beginning of each week, we give them the GAS Weekly as an entire group, and they sit down and plan where they're going to go every day. So lots of choices.
So what's next? Diana and I sort of debrief with each other at the end of every semester, and sort of this is where we're at right now. Our number one thing is we really want to get more community involvement. We want to find a way of getting kids out into the community to do some projects rather than doing them in school. We also want to be better at, because this is something we said right from the start, is getting the community in. And so getting people to actually see what our kids are doing. We went to High Tech High, and that's a big part of their student presentations there, is that they invite the public and sometimes really target groups in public, and that really ups the game for kids when they know that there's going to be some strangers coming to look at what they've done. So we need to do a better job of it.
Yeah, we've done a good job of getting the school community in to look at projects, but not the outside community. Another thing that we need to focus more on is graphic design. And again, that's something that came out of High Tech High. All the students at High Tech High take courses in graphic design every year, and it really improves the look of their product. Our students don't get that yet, and we've started that this year. We had Karina Fitzner come in this year, and she did a class on what fonts to use, what font sizes to use, what colors to put together, how to line things up, and what looks good and what doesn't look good. And that helped a lot.
Oh yeah, record keeping is another one, like I said, that attendance piece, and so those other little niggly structure things that we spend a lot of time on behind the scenes. And then the competencies, and changing that, what I learned lately, to reflect the competencies instead of that 21st century skills. So that's all we have to say, and we're happy to entertain any questions if we'll have any. But thank you very much for having us and letting us show you some of the things happening at Cal High.
Thank you. Questions, comments from trustees? Well, it's a very exciting integrated curriculum. It's a new one for us as trustees to hear about and see that you're exploring a lot of the new ways to engage young people and instruct them. So congratulations, it sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, good. Yeah, we'll take them back. We just want you to have them.
So moving to item B, which is recognition of Wynn Ryder Group, and I'll call on Trustee Groot.
Hi, Wynn. This is becoming my very favorite part of pretty much being a board member lately. I'm here to, first of all, on behalf of the board, thank you for all of the things you've done. And for those of you who don't know Wynn, she has a whole list of activities and things that she's done, so I want to bring them to you. At the school level, she's the Prime Minister of the Parliament and has been since April of 2015. She's been a Cabinet Minister since September 2014. As the Prime Minister, she organized a week-long compassion campaign, helped appoint the Cabinet, drafted the mandate of the Parliament and approved the yearly budget, also organized dances and spirit days. Part of a group planning Youth Action Day, and that's done in conjunction with the Intercultural Society, has been a part of Global Issues Club, West Coast Trail Club, Interact Club, Red Cross Club, and Together Against Discrimination Always. That's just at her school. At the district level, she's been a member of DSAC since 2011, was the vice chair, and is now, since 2014, been the chair. She's been involved in the Backpack Project, the Compact, every time I say Compact, I get them together. Compassion Campaign, the Anti-Bullying Initiative in all high schools across the district. Unbelievable amount of work you do, and I want to thank you, first of all. I think it's amazing. But the other piece that we need to know is that she also received a Lauren Award. There were 30 of them given out 31 this year, and it's a huge scholarship that she's receiving. Her fees plus $9,000 a year for all living expenses. So congratulations and thank you. And I have some flowers.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Okay, the kids can make our funny faces together. Good job.
Well, Lynn, we do have a few moments if you'd like to say anything to us.
Just off the bat. Other than just thank you for all the recognition that I've received and all the opportunity I've gotten from the district. I wouldn't be able to have done any of the things that I have done without support from the community and from within schools and external of the schools. DSAC, the District Student Advisory Council, is really a place where I got to grow as a leader. I started when I was just in grade 7. I was 12. Just looking back on my first days on the council, here is really where I grew. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna run it.
What's your test go today?
Oh, good.
Good.
Thank you. Moving to item 5, report of closed meetings, Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. At the closed meeting earlier today, we talked about personnel issue, 2 personnel issues, and a property issue.
Thank you. Moving to item 6, old business, the action list. If we could just take a look through that. Nice and short, all right. So, and it's all done. Are there any questions about anything on the action list? Okay, we can move on to Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Allen.
Equally short, Madam Chair. 7.2 for information, beginning with an update. Lots of things continuing to occur across the district. I spoke to you last time about the intermediate district challenge. We've gone through the primary district challenge across the districts, huge numbers of teams participating from schools across the district. Drama challenge, primary science challenge, etc. Wonderful events. We have some upcoming events that are coming up. District chess tournament will be beginning next March 8th, so that's next week. Also would like to thank Trustees Schmidt and DeGroot for presenting medals and attending the awards and presenting medals. Upcoming Young Filmmaker Showcase in April, 3rd Annual District Poetry Slam coming up. So lots of things happening with our students outside of the regular kind of events. FYI for trustees, Cohiman Elementary has received a Music Counts grant for $10,000 for musical instruments, which is will be well used, I know, for some much needed musical equipment. DSAC, and Wynn has bolted, but which tells you how smart she is. Sorry, was that my outside voice back here? I apologize.
Rephrase, yes.
DSAC has come through a very successful Compassion Week with activities in all our secondary schools, but also in several of our elementary schools, supported by secondary students. Through last week, Random Acts of Kindness, Multicultural Diversity Day, Pink Day, School Choice, Give What You Can Day, various activities going on in schools, and Rainbow and Acceptance Day on the Friday. So pretty cool and hugely student organized. Trustee Schmidt, I think, would back me up on this. It's we're just kind of along for the ride. They absolutely lead, manage, and run this. It's just excellent. Upcoming on March 10th, Lake Cowichan School is hosting District Bone Game Tournament, which I don't know if that's the first time this has happened here or not, but it's the first time I've ever heard of this. It's a bone game as a First Nations ritual of personal and group transformation. Arose out of the need for conflict resolution and developed as an alternative to aggression. And teams will be coming from each high school across the district and participating in that on March the 10th. So that's So lots going on in our schools. As well, last week, a number of activities happened on the Professional Development Day. I'll bring one to your attention because a number of folks from the board office also participated in that. That was an Understanding the Village Day put on by Michelle and Denise Augustine, where we had staff from several of our schools in the North End participate, as well as a number of community members and elders in an Understanding the Village workshop. And if trustees have not participated in that, I would highly recommend it. It might be something we would like to suggest we do collectively, participate in that. I had participated previously with different facilitators, and what I witnessed last week, given the local context and the use of local elders, was extraordinarily powerful and a very transformative experience, I think, for all of us that participated. So congratulations to Denise and her team as well. It's part of our ongoing efforts to make sure that we are all as educated as we can be on First Nations issues and trying to understand the impact of residential schools and the colonial history. To do with, just to bring a piece to your attention, with the refugees students that we have, we're still sitting with the same number of refugee students. They have all been given bus passes so that they're able to ride our transportation system, which is great. We anticipate, we hope there will be some more students coming, but that's yet to be finalized. I will also mention that the curriculum days for next year have been established. As you know, the board established a calendar, a 3-year calendar previously. We have been asked by the ministry to amend it. Same process as we used this year, just as an information item to the board, that the 2 half-days have been mutually determined between myself and the union, and it will be the afternoon of October 27th and the afternoon of February the 9th. So a revised sheet will be going out to folks across the district after this meeting. Last thing that I'll bring to your attention, because many of you were there last night, we had an excellent day with Yang Zhao across our district. Began in the morning with Yang with our DSAC students who were prepared, came loaded for bear with questions and comments, and they really made a brilliant use of the time. Yang, as you know, is a pretty high profile fella and doesn't get a lot of time with students anymore. And so for him, that was an absolute gift. And he lit some fires with those students and they with him. So it was a great conversation. It was, Wynn kind of chaired it without a net. And it was just a really free-flowing dialogue for 2 hours that was just excellent. Before the day was out, Yang had an email from one of the students who had sought him out online and had sent him an email with some questions, which Yang responded to before the end of the day. So it was just kind of our kids in action, which is great. Yang also met with all the teaching staff as well as most of the EAs in the afternoon for a presentation in the theater. The place was packed. And then, as you know, evening presentation with the community, which, and I don't have the final numbers of how many were there, but it was more than had registered. So a great evening. We tried to, I promised people could get out by 8:30. We didn't make it. It was a little after 9. But that's because of some great questions and some dialogue that was happening. So we'll see the impact that has on our district in the coming days and weeks. I know dialogues have been started all over the place with Jan and his ideas.
And just say thank you for organizing that for our district. I think that's one of the best parent information sessions that I'd ever attended, and thought that people were really listening and trying to understand, and I mean it's huge to think about how we need to transform according to Nolan's vision for kids, and to feel so excited about his connections with the DSAC students that were there. Trustee Schmidt?
I just had a moment to talk to the DPAC, some of the DPAC executive after the event, just to see how the ladies were doing, and they were thrilled. For DPAC to co-host this with the school district, it was fabulous, and thank you to your superintendent for doing that with them, but they were really impressed, and they worked very hard to be able to gather an audience so that it was worthwhile having. So, just a huge shout out to DPAC as well.
Thank you. And Trustee Croft?
I just wanted to share thank you with DPAC as well for partnering and hosting that and getting the word out and bringing the coffee and the treats and all that kind of legwork. So unfortunately, they're not here today to hear that, but I know they put a lot of work in and brought a lot of bodies, and yeah, they did a great job.
Thank you. Maybe we could put that in the minutes, maybe. Trustee Hudgens?
Yeah, I just want to echo those words. I had a chance to visit, be part of that last night, and just it was a delight. It was an absolute delight. Very impressed by the panel on the stage, who apparently were forced to the last moment, or asked to the last moment, and the wisdom that was shared. It was a delight. So, a lot of conversation, I think, will have been started by that evening. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And thank you for trustees for attending, and hopefully, as I said last night, hopefully this is the beginning of some ongoing deep dialogues and bringing some new ideas and some different ideas, and not that we're going to agree with everything, but that's the power of the conversation. Yeah. Let's have the conversation. Let's talk about some of these ideas. 7.3 for board action. Two things, Madam Chair. One, a student travel request has come back for final approval for a Cowichan Secondary School Quamachin campus band trip to Portland on May 5th to 8th.
Okay. If there's a mover, Trustee DeGroot, seconded Trustee Schmidt. Any comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Item B.
And the school fees and deposit schedule that you have in your packages, it is the same as last year with one addition, and that is the distributed learning K-12 has added was not on the list last year, and has added a refundable textbook deposit to the list.
Thank you. So moved by Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee Hutchins. Any conversation? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Sands.
Thank you. I have one agenda item this evening under board information. It's the year-end projection. I don't purposely make these numbers so small so you can't tell what's going on, but I'll walk through it here. It does seem to always end up this way. This is a projection that we prepared as at February 15th, and this is our intent of this projection is to look out to where we think we will likely be at June 30th based on information that we know today. So information always changes, and so does our projection as we move closer and closer to June 30th. It becomes more and more accurate. So the first section of the projection looks at revenues, and you'll see right now on the very first line that's our provincial grant, and we haven't put in any change from what the province has already told us we were going to receive for this year. So we've had a February count. We haven't incorporated any additional revenue from February. It's still unclear how the province will fund the additional students that arrived in February's count, so that would be the dual credit. As we know from the previous round of funding, when they funded us based on our September numbers, they had to use the whole deck at that time. So until we have confirmation on our actual funding for February, I don't want to put anything in there that speculates that we will receive additional funding for those students, because there is a possibility that we won't. We may receive what we actually put in our projection. So a significant item there would be that our international program is still a bit behind projections, and the main reason for that was a couple of the programs that we thought would run over the summertime, offshore programs, didn't run. But it may, by the end of the year, with some short-term activity and more students coming in, actually get closer to our budget number. But the bottom line under revenues there is that we believe we'll be behind at this point by about $71,000. On the expenditure side, we group our salaries together, and the way we run the projections here is we look at our year-to-date. So what do we have expended as of February 15th? And then we look at what that payroll was, that last payroll for each one of those employee groups, and we take those out to the end of the year. So if you're in February, we just assume that there'll be another payroll in February, 2 in March, 2 in April, etc. And we get a figure at the end to where we think we'll be. We make adjustments for known items. So in the case of the teachers' salaries, we know there's still teachers working through their increments, so just to use the February teacher payroll is not necessarily going to be the same as it's going to be in May or it's going to be in June. So in most cases, we're tracking pretty well to budget here. If you look at that budget, it's a $53 million budget under wages, and we're expecting that we'll have about $583,000 remaining. Now, a big piece there is on casual replacement. With our education assistants, we're doing really, really well this year. For whatever reason, it has dropped probably to about half of what it normally would be. And normally would be looking at the last 3 years. So the last 3 years were actually really, really high on casual replacement with that particular employee group. This year they're really low. And if that trend continues, there'll be some surplus generated in those accounts. Going down to benefits, it makes sense that if our salaries are coming in under budget, so should our benefits, because they track with generally, other than the health benefits, those pension and CPP, EI, WorkSafe, they track along with the expenses going out for wages. So we're expecting to see about $100,000 surplus there, assuming that we have the other surplus above. Going back to that salaries, that's about 1%. So when we look at our estimate of what our budget was at $53 million, if you're anticipating $583,000 surplus, that's really close to about a 1%. So we're still really close as far as our budgeting is going. Under services and supplies, that incorporates all non-wage type accounts. And there you'll see under services that we're quite a bit over on the first line, showing that being about $240,000 over. And that is our actual expenditure rate on our dual credit tuition. So we're spending a lot of money on tuition, and what I haven't done is I haven't included any revenue for those, as I explained in the very, very first line under provincial grants. I'm not bringing in any revenue until I know whether or not the province is going to fund that. So if they do fund it, we'll have more revenue that will offset that. We're just waiting to hear. And the bottom line there, too, to look at is utilities. That's showing us actually being under budget by $121,000. I think if we all think of this winter, like last winter, it's been a really good winter as far as heating and natural gas requirements, so hydro and natural gas requirements. So we're anticipating seeing a surplus there. Again, I think those budgets are set at quite an historical rate. We've had 2 really good winters. Don't know what next year will bring, but it's been helpful. So the bottom line here is that at this point, if we look out to June 30th, we project a surplus of about $519,000. So that's gone up from the 200-ish that we had here 2 months ago. As I explained, it always kind of changes as we get closer to the end of the year. It'll change again. I mean, every time we look at it, it changes. It's based on best guesses, best estimates at the time. But it's still well under 1% of our $74 million annual operating budget. So we are still tracking relatively close, but hopefully we'll continue to see some surplus there that can assist us in next year's budget exercise.
Thank you. Mr. Sandquist, any questions or comments? Moving to committees and outside organizations. First, Trustee Hutchins with the Board Education and Business Committee.
Minister, before you, do we receive them here?
Yes.
Motion to receive.
Thank you. Seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to DSAC meeting. Trustee Schmidt.
Board of Education received the highlights from the February 10th DSAT meeting.
Thank you. moved by trustee Schmidt, seconded by trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to the advisory committee, again, trustee Schmidt.
That the Board of Education received the minutes of the February 16th, 2016 advisory committee meeting.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Schmidt, seconded by trustee Dolan. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to, BCSTA Aboriginal Education Committee meeting report. And that is mine. Just to let you know, you have received those, meeting minutes in your VISTA package. Just to say to you, the most important for the district would be the collection of what's happening in Aboriginal education in terms of successes and challenges. And what the committee discovered was that there was a lot more initiatives going on in Aboriginal education. And there were some new ideas as well in newsletters, PowerPoints, in-service options that are being presented for teachers are far more than in the past, and certainly the intent of embedding Indigenous content throughout has certainly been started, but it's a slow process. And I guess the challenges is identified as teachers not really knowing and understanding, and therefore a little bit slow to embed Aboriginal content within their curriculums. Lots of needs identified, more resources, more pro-D, more Aboriginal resource people, and a long-term implementation strategy that's purposeful, strategic, and sustainable. So I think that probably will go forward at the AGM as a motion. Okay, moving to BCSTA Provincial Council report. Trustee Hudgens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was actually a very interesting council. Friday night we had the presentation by the representatives of the Attorney General's department speaking to audits. And it was very interesting to hear that there was several delegates, particularly Langley, Richmond, who seemed to be on a very First Nation basis with auditors because they, for whatever reason, maybe being close to the airport and their district are being picked more often or whatever, but a very positive feedback. And I think one director said, or one trustee said, we miss you, that we value your input, and we've come to a better place because of your role. Interesting president's report by Mike Roberts on the Saturday morning, focusing on, and you should be able to read this, it came out on Wednesday the 24th, and speaking about the concern about reduction in administration, or the frame that needs to be changed, because it's not a question of administration, we're cutting leadership, and we need to invest in leadership. The Ed Committee actually is, which is our professional Ed Committee, is looking forward at two different things. One is the possibility of certification of trustees at the end of your term based on the level of intern training that you've taken over that period of time, but also setting up a network to allow for trustees that are within a school district that have similar emergent issues, and then they may choose to have a telephone conference call and say, hey, how are you handling this issue? The 5 resolutions that went before the council, by the way, the minutes aren't out yet, but every single resolution had a series of amendments to it. And all but one passed. And the one that I was surprised that didn't pass, because the language and the way it was being molded and shaped was asking for the provincial government to do a better effort, a strategy of the new curriculum, and formulate, take a global approach. But there was a fair amount of language demonstrating distrust with the provincial government that, no, this is a local issue. It's a provincial mandate, but it's a local issue, and we need to have that dialogue with our communities and not have the province telling the story, or even helping tell the story, but it sounds like that. Anyway, so I was honestly quite surprised that we did not support the province actually investing money in educating the general Anyway, the issues on the whole issue of the issues forum in the afternoon was on the role of audits, and it was a fascinating discussion from a point of concern and cynicism and how much time it takes up to applauding their value. So I mean, there was no resolution; it was just a roundtable discussion, and but very thought-provoking and worthwhile.
Thank you. Any questions of Trustee Hitchens? Moving to the last item. Sorry, Trustee DeGroot.
Are you going to send us a copy of your notes, or is it going to be wait for the minutes?
I can take these up for you, but I was waiting for the minutes
Yeah.
because the minutes, they do such a good job of covering everything. So
Well, sometimes it's interesting to hear the trustee with theirs.
I can do that.
Thank you. Moving on to item F, the Vista update. It is this weekend. We are hosting the Vancouver Island Trustees meeting. So I hope we're all ready to be there and host. We start Friday night, as you know, at 5:30. And Gina has been absolutely amazing. She's organized it all mostly by herself.
Wow.
So we want to thank her immensely and thank the chamber also for stuffing our bags, which they got donated from Thrifties, of really local material. And then we've added a book from our Aboriginal department. Thank you very much, Denise. And I think people will be happy to receive them. You know how sometimes you're not particularly happy with some of the registration pieces that you get, but I think our delegates will be happy. We have 69 registrants, which is the highest ever for a Vista meeting. So I think that's thanks to our superintendent and connections for bringing in Jim Eicher and Assistant Deputy Minister Jen McRae. So I think we're ready to have a good time. The venues are really the best we have to offer, I think, although there's so much more in Cowichan that's worthy as well, but we just don't have the time, unfortunately. So we're set. Thank you, everyone that has been on the edge of planning that. Okay, moving to item 10, upcoming meetings and events, our schedule. Yes, it did. So, any comments or questions about anything on the schedule of committee meetings? Trustee Hutchins?
So when we look at talking in February, we were not going to have a bed meeting in March because it normally falls in spring break, but it's proposed here to be on the 30th.
Yes. We need one because we are processing our budget through BEBC prior to coming to the board. Anything further on the schedule? Okay, moving to correspondence, 2 items. The first is to receive and file the correspondence from DPAC regarding flexible teacher-parent consultation approach. Moved by Trustee Schmidt, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Any comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item B, which is a request from Literacy Now Cowichan. It's on your table. And the request is for a letter of support from the board regarding their application for the Community Adult Literacy Program grant. Are there any questions about it? Looking for a mover, moved by Trustee Schmidt, seconded by Trustee Thorne. Any comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving to new business, none, question period. Are there any questions? Susan?
I made a presentation to you about the funding from MCFD for school age therapy OT position. Usually it's jointly funded, and our district hasn't received those funds for 5 years now. And it's only 50,000, but at the time that we were getting, but still it would be another little piece. And I know Bob Harper was sort of working through a little process, but I never heard what happened, and I don't know. Usually March 31st is when the ministry finishes all their contracts with the community agencies, and so I just wasn't sure waiting till the end of March would be wise, or whether there was a conversation or process going forward for that. Our district, it's a province-wide program, school age therapy program, and it's jointly funded by MCFD and Boards of Education. So our district seems to be the only one in the province that doesn't get that MCFD piece, and I know the current strategic plan for MCFD is one of the things is to, in the new plan, is to balance out and look at some equity between districts. So I just was wondering if anything had happened in that past year.
Thank you for the question, and last year I know that we did refer that to our superintendent, and we'll re-refer. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I guess just another little side piece is that we're always looking at other pieces of funding is just started conversations with different people, but I also, one of my part-time jobs is with Child and Youth Mental Health in Victoria, and I've been kind of loaned to the Duncan office, and that position ends at the end of March, and so I'm just looking at funding pieces that we have different funding process down there that works really well, and we have more revenue streams than we seem to have up here. So I just wanted to let you know that that's another little piece that kind of looking at that bridge is the OT that works between the two programs. Just to kind of give you a heads up on that.
Thank you, so we'll add that in. Thank you. Anything further from audience? Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn. Trustee Schmidt, Trustee Dolman, all those in favor, motion carries.
No, I think